Let's play King's Field. I recently played this game all the way through. I actually finished this game as a kid somehow. I'm not sure how the hell I did that, but uh, recently got all the way through it and really, really enjoyed it and thought I might try doing an LP of it. Why not? Um, with everyone sort of stuck inside right now with everything that's going on, I figured there's no better time. While I've still got most of the game in my head, I hope, and sort of know what I'm doing. But the first thing I want to do is the manual, which I have here, has a ton of backstory in it, which is a little bit unusual for reasons I'll get into. But I thought I'd go ahead and read this out, and I'll put a timestamp in the video so you can jump ahead if you don't care about all this. But it's kind of interesting. A lot of this stuff is not really covered in the actual game, which was typical of games of this Generation 5 games, and earlier generally had a lot of stuff going on in the manuals, which you don't even really get a manual anymore. So I'm going to go ahead and read this out, and it'll be on screen as well, so you can read along, or you can pause and read it yourself, and then jump ahead to the gameplay, but I figure I might as well go ahead and try and read it out. So, this story, and this is I may have said this is 3 pages, there's tons of it in here. Ancient Writings. Deep within the forests of Verdite lay a hidden cavern. Concealed among the stalactites of this mystical and holy place was a monument erected for the highest elf. The monument was inscribed with ancient writings upon its base, and only the direct descendant of the highest elf was able to decipher the writings, which said, "It is written, a great ship has fallen from the heavens. It struck the island of Melonot and was buried deep within the island. Those who come from faraway lands to seek its buried treasures shall never return alive. Never approach the island, for the sleeping beast in the darkness awaits the great awakening." The island of Melonot. There are 3 countries on the northern continent. Granatiki, Granatiki, Egret, and Verdite. In the midst of these countries lies the mystical island of Melonot, controlled by forces of good and evil. In ancient times, the High Elves discovered the island and built a holy shrine. After the shrine was erected, monsters hidden in the island's underground arose and killed most of the High Elves. Those who survived later died from mysterious poisons. Thousands of years later, the 3 northern countries were unified and under the control of the powerful King Harvine. And under the control? Harvine attempted to build his castle on the island of Melonot, but the monsters again arose and attacked the king's men. Harvine was forced to retreat to save the few men that he had left. Because of this retreat, he lost power on the northern continent, and he could not overcome the Great War on the continent. The land was then divided into 3 countries, Granatiki, Egret, and Verdite. Legions of monsters then emerged from within the island and crossed the rough channels to the northern continent. Egret and Granatiki were completely destroyed and lay in ruins. The people of Verdite now fear for their lives and their country, knowing that soon the kingdom of Verdite would be invaded. The Legends of the Lands. Many villagers believe that there is either a good god named Seath, the white dragon, or an evil demon known as Gyra, the black dragon, living on the island of Melonot. There is a legend that has been passed down for centuries telling of the valuable crystals that can be found on the island. Because of this legend, many poor people have crossed the channels to the island in search of its hidden treasures. Those who survive the crossings are subjected to the evil poison that is on the island, and they become the slaves of this mysterious poison. It is said that once a person has been infected by the poison, they cannot leave the island. However, the legend also speaks of 2 kinds of water on the island. One water is purifying and can free those infected by the poison. No one knows where the purifying water can be found. The powers of the other kind of water is unknown. The history of Verdite. A young warrior named Alfred returned to Verdite from the island of Melonot, where he had been searching for his father, who had left many years ago to slay the evil monsters on Melonot. Although Alfred did not find his father, he did survive the tribulations of the island. The soldiers spied upon the weary Alfred as he approached the castle of Verdite and opened the gates to let him in. The eldest of the kingdom shouted, It is truly a miracle. Alfred has returned from the mystical island of Melonot alive. Alfred then began to tell the villagers the stories of his adventures. The monster that Alfred had gone to slay was actually the former king of Verdite, who had turned evil and was now known as the Black Dragon. Alfred told the townsfolk about his search for his father and about fighting with the Black Dragon. Alfred then showed the villagers his greatest treasure, the great moonlight sword, which he had found on Melonot. The villagers were captivated by his heroic courage and shouted, "Alfred is to be the new king of Verdite." Alfred was then crowned King Alfred. The fall of Verdite. Over the next few years, there was peace and joy in the kingdom of Verdite. Then something very terrible happened. The monsters appeared in the caverns near Verdite. King Alfred went to destroy the monsters, but found that his powerful moonlight sword had been stolen. Without his powerful sword, King Alfred was unable to defeat the monsters. King Alfred then dispatched an extensive search party to hunt for his treasured weapon. The soldiers thoroughly searched every villager. It was a bit rude. But the sword was not to be found. While the soldiers searched for the sword, they found a letter deep within the forests of Verdite. It was written in the ancient writings that could only be deciphered by the descendants of the High Elves, and it read, "Necron seeks the powers of the Moonlight Sword. He lives on the mystical island and in the midst of the northern continent. Necron controls the island of Melonot." King Alfred then immediately sent his soldiers to the island in hopes of discovering the truth about the island and finding his magical sword, but his soldiers were never heard from again. The Great Journey. Several months later, the king's best friend, Alexander, arrived at the castle of Verdite to visit King Alfred. King Alfred told Alexander about the missing sword and about the monsters near Verdite. Alexander proclaimed that with the king's blessing he would go to the island of Melonot and destroy the monster and bring back the king's sword. The king granted his permission, and Alexander began his journey. While crossing the channels to the island, Alexander's ship was attacked by the creatures of the sea, capitalized for some reason, and was completely destroyed. All the king's men were lost at sea except for Alexander, who became entangled in seaweed and drifted to a small reef. When Alexander regained consciousness, he lifted his eyes and observed an island in the distance. He slowly swam to the shoreline, losing his weaponry and armor in the murky waters. Alexander crawled out of the sea and stumbled courageously toward the caverns within the island. So, that's the setup for the game begins immediately after that. And that gives you the whole sort of backstory and setup for what the hell it is we're supposed to be doing and where we are. The game, there's actually more dialogue in this game than I would say a lot of From's later stuff. And it's interesting that, well, I haven't said yet. This is a From Software game. This is in fact From Software's first game that was ever localized into English. From Software, of course, everyone knows, is famous for the Dark Souls franchise. But they've been around for a long time. The company was apparently actually formed in the 80s, although they didn't produce a game until 94, which is when the first Kingsfield game came out in Japan. Nobody in the West got Kingsfield 1. It was never localized, but Kingsfield 2 came out in 96, I think, 95. In Japan, and then the next year it was localized into English for the US. I believe Power Regions actually got it that same year. So this game that we're playing here is actually Kingsfield 2 in Japan. They did this whole numbering thing because we didn't get the first game. This is just called Kingsfield in English, but in Japan this is Kingsfield 2. So this is basically From's second game, but their first game, of course, was Japan only. And the first game was a lot simpler from what I understand. I've never played it, but it was just a sort of a dungeon crawl, kind of like something more like Calibeth or the very early first-person dungeon crawls where it's just a dungeon. There's no world, really. You're just moving through various levels of the dungeon. There's not much story to speak of. But you can see that when we play, you'll see that the influences that this game had on everything from has done after that are really like it's um, very much the same DNA as the Dark Souls games, which came much later. They did this game, Kingsfield, and then they did Kingsfield 3, which we got as Kingsfield 2 here in the States. And I don't actually think Kingsfield 3 was localized for PAL at all. And then they did Shadow Tower also on the PlayStation, and then PS2 they did another Kingsfield game, Kingsfield 4, which I'm not even sure what was called. Here I think it had a subtitle, but I can't recall what the subtitle was. And then of course they on PS3 they did Demon Souls, which is where the modern sort of From game perception. Demon Souls was third person, all the Kingsfield games are first person. And then between those games, they did a whole lot of other stuff that shares some of the same qualities. They did um, oh, I'm forgetting the names, but they have quite a number of games which all have the same kind of fantasy feel, and they reuse a lot of their elements. And even in that story there, Alfred, you'll notice, is a name that they reuse quite a bit. There was an Alfred in Bloodborne, who was sort of a somewhat similar character. And the Holy Moonlight Sword, which is the entire sort of point of this game, what it is we're trying to do. The goal is to recover this Moonlight Sword from the island of Melon, which is where we're headed. And the Moonlight Sword appears in, I believe, every single fantasy game. Maybe not every single fantasy game, but all of the games that are like this. The Moonlight Sword is in Kingsfield. It was in Kingsfield 1. It's in this game, which is Kingsfield 2, and I believe every Kingsfield game. It may have been in Shadow Tower as well, and of course it appears in every Dark Souls game and also in Bloodborne. From has all these elements that they like to reuse. Uh, Sort of their signature, even if the games are not actually connected. Kingsfield and Shadow Tower and Dark Souls, they don't share any, as far as I know, they don't share any like plot connections or continuity between them. But it's sort of like the Xeno series, where the series are separate, but the developer likes to add the same elements, thematic stuff into all of those games. So Xenogears, and then Xenosaga, and then the current one, Xenoblade Chronicles. Those are all um, they're not related to each other as far as plot or setting or anything, but they share a lot of the same elements and themes, and that's the same thing with a lot of From's fantasy stuff. Of course, the other side of From is all their mech games, which they started similar time. All of this fantasy stuff was first, but they ended up doing Armored Core very close after this. Also started on the PlayStation, and of course the Armored Core series ran for 15, like 18 different Armored Core games, enormous number of Armored Core games, and then they've done tons of other mech stuff as well, including stuff like Frame Gride and Morikumo, I think it was called, and they did Metal Wolf Chaos, I think was From as well. They have tons of mech games, so they kind of have these two main things that they do. Of course, they have other stuff too. They did Ninja Blade on the 360 and PlayStation 3, which I don't think anybody has ever played. I should play that sometime for the channel, maybe. Anyway, so that's the backstory stuff done. There's a little intro cutscene, which we'll watch here, but let's go ahead and get started. Nah, you can't beat the PlayStation intro. This game was localized and published in the US by ASCII Entertainment. In Japan, I can't remember who actually was responsible in Japan. The PAL version of this game was published by Sony. Here's From's old logo, which is just awful.
A mysterious darkness conquered the island of Marinette. There was either a god or a demon who controlled the island, and no one tried to go there. A high elf in the forest told of a blue light that came down from the sky and struck the island. The blue light penetrated deep into the island's underworld. For hundreds of years, the island had been carved by people who were challenged and destroyed by the island's energy.
I believe this is meant to be the island, the castle at Verdite.
Never approach the island, for a sleeping beast in the darkness waits for a great awakening.
The blue light they mentioned earlier, we presume, is probably the Moonlight Sword. There's the island in the distance, not very far offshore. And here's the title. Something else that's different about this game from the Dark Souls series is that there's a lot more music. You'll also potentially notice that the music sounds an awful lot like Castlevania music. I don't know if there's a reason for that, if maybe the composer worked on Castlevania, but it certainly reminds me a lot of Castlevania music. And we want a new game. And we're off and running. Just dumps us right in. So, here we are. We've washed ashore. We're playing as Alexander, friend of King Alfred. And we're here to search for the Holy Moonlight Sword. The Great Moonlight Sword, I believe they call it. The HUD is super simple. Of course, this was an old PlayStation game, so the resolution is pretty low. We do have a compass up in the top there, and our HP and MP. There's 2 meters there that you'll see, the brown meter and the green meter. Those are sort of your strength and magic stamina meters, you might call them. Whenever I use either an attack for the strength meter, or if I cast a spell for the magic meter, they'll drop, and it takes them a little bit of time to refill, and how fast or slow they refill depends on what you have equipped. If you sprint, you also drain those meters. So after sprinting, then you have to wait a moment for the meters to refill before you can, before you can use magic, but you can actually swing again with a not completely filled strength meter, but your attack will be significantly weaker, so it's probably not a very good idea. I generally don't do that. So, what else is there to explain? We might as well get some of this stuff out of the way early on. Our menu, we've got items. We can use magic. The spells that are in here are non-combat spells. For combat spells, you equip them into an equipment slot, and you use that on triangle. Strength is actually your stats screen. This shows us, again, kind of like Dark Souls, our stats, 3 different types of attacks, which can matter for different enemies, are more or less resistant to different types of damage, as is typical, and we have defenses on all the same stuff. We have dark magic and poison resist, which are not things we can inflict, but come into play whenever we encounter enemies that deal those damage types. We can drop things. You can load straight from the menu, which is really nice sometimes. Options, there's not too much in here. We can turn the compass off if we want to. I never use the compass, but I don't see any real reason to turn it off. So you can turn the whole HUD off if you want to, and you can turn the head bob off. The head bob off if you want to as well. I don't really mind the head bob. It's pretty subtle, and I don't know. It feels all right. It feels right to me. So the first thing we need to do, you just sort of dropped in here with no real indication of what you should be doing or where you should be going. We start with just a dagger and literally nothing else. These items are accessory slots, and then the select button binding is you can put a quick item on the select button, which you'll generally would want a healing item there. So the first thing we're going to do is trundle over this way. Obviously, the obvious way to go is, you know, you've got more going on over there, but you can step around here, and there's something we definitely want. And this guy right here, this huge, these guys are called Krakens, I believe. He will kill us instantly for quite a long time, so we want to step down here and make sure he can't slap us. Don't want to get slapped by that guy. So you can see already that, much like Dark Souls, even more like Dark Souls in a way, we're just sort of free to run around. There's no, unlike Dark Souls, there's no tutorial area or anything like that to even get us accustomed to how the game plays. You're just sort of dumped in here and expected to get on with it. So you really, it takes a while to find your way around. I'm not going to bother trying to kill this guy with the little dagger. I'm just going to go around him. This is an earth herb, and here's what we want right here is a short sword. So we'll equip that. Weapon, short sword. And we might as well put on the quick item, this herb, so that we can heal. You can see all the good old PlayStation imprecise graphics here, with polys just sort of overlapping in strange ways, and I don't know. I find the old PlayStation graphics charming in this way. There's really no other system that looks quite like the PlayStation, even if, you know, arguably it's a bad look, but I don't know, I like it anyway. So, did I check those barrels? I definitely intended to check those barrels. The fish can jump and bite you if you're in the shallow water, but they can't really, they can't do anything to you if you're anywhere above. Yeah, there's nothing in that one. So let's go ahead and, we might as well go ahead and kill a couple of these guys. The leveling and everything works in a very standard way for this era. You get experience when you kill things. And experience, whoops, let him get a little bit too close. Experience contributes to your level, which improves all of your stats, gives you more maximum HP and MP, although leveling up does not give you any HP or MP. So it improves your maxes, but you can't count on a level to heal you, as it does in some games or anything like that. But dealing damage with a weapon gives you strength training, I guess you would say. Once you deal... Ouch, landed right on that fish. Once you deal enough damage with a weapon, you will gain more strength, which you can see... out of the water. I don't think there's a fish there, but might as well. Not there. It's on this screen right here. Strength power and magic power. When you deal damage with weapons, you get strength power XP, I guess you could say. And same thing with magic. And when you do enough, you gain strength or magic power, which is another modifier to your damage, in addition to your weapon or the spell that you're using. Grab this herb, and then we'll speak to this fisherman. And there are quite a number of NPCs in this game, a lot more than you might expect. And they have quite a bit to say, and in fact, if you come back to them later, a lot of the time they'll have even more to say. So I'm not going to read out everything that they say. Maybe I will. Should I? Yeah, let's do. You look like that. You look like the person that was on the ship that wrecked a few days ago, but it's hard to believe that you were able to make it to shore. Usually when a ship wrecks out there, no one makes it here alive, except for those who are tradesmen. What? That's just attempting to explain why there's so many merchants, I guess, on the island. I'm not sure why a tradesman would be better equipped to swim to shore than anyone else, but whatever. Speak to him again. I came here to look for the Vikings' treasures, but this island is filled with poison, and now I can't live without the water on this island. I cannot leave. Of course, they talked about that in the backstory. See that lighthouse over there? It was made by King Harvine a long time ago. It still works, though, as it is lit by the magic powers of the mage Sedek. You can easily go over there if you go through the shallow waters, but be careful, watch out for seals, the dangerous sea monsters. It's the fish, I presume. And we are going to be going over there in just a moment here. It's quite important that we do. It's pretty dangerous around here. When you go inside this island, you will see so many monsters. The Kraken's nest is especially dangerous. Don't go near it. That's very true, because the big Kraken over there we can't even begin to deal with. There are some people living on this island, as well as sea merchants. You'd better go explore this place. Telling us to just get on with it. The village is behind the wooden door. I think you need special equipment to survive. You have to hurry. Do I have to hurry? I don't think I have to hurry. You'd better hurry. No, alright. He's just trying to get rid of me. So, as he said, we can take the shallows here. Run. Seagulls are actually not a problem at all if you just sprint past here. It's not too difficult to see where you can walk, but if you fall off of the world, I guess I'll say, if you fall into an area where there is no place to land, then you're just dead. You can fall quite a distance in this game and just take damage, though, so that's actually something that you need to get certain places. It takes a jump. Again, quite a bit like Dark Souls. So if we head up here, up the lighthouse, as he said, it is fueled by magic, and we want that magic. There we go, right there. I'm gonna fire crystal. So we'll just take that. And we want to immediately use it. So we've got our earth herb here. You can see this is all the information you get about your items, just the name, and you can inspect them. The crystal that we picked up over there on the left, crystals are very important, but they're not useful to us right now. You have to get quite a ways into the game before you can do anything with the crystals, but collecting them is quite important. Elemental crystals, on the other hand, when you use them, do this. They teach us a spell. So now we have our first spell. We can equip it, and we know Fireball. Very important. So now we have something we can do with our MP. The problem is, if I can get on the stairs safely here, we have no way to refill our MP yet. And in fact, there's not many ways to refill your MP in this game. The main way, you sort of have to be a bit tricky. So this is the way we ran across, and this little bridge here, I'll go ahead and step out here and show you. Well, we'll just go back that way. But this right here is a different path. We want to take this, so we can run way out here. This intimidated me so much as a kid. We've got a couple krakens and a little island here, but the important thing is this right here, which is a breastplate, which will give us some armor. If we look at our strength, we have literally no defense of any kind, which is not ideal. But if we put this on our body, you can see we have actually some pretty similar item slots to what you would find in Dark Souls. So now we have some defense. Not too bad. Okay, so since we're here, we might as well slap these. Whoops, don't fall off there. You fall quite slowly, and because of that, and because you will sort of snap onto ledges, it's quite possible to catch yourself if you begin to fall. In most cases. Try not to get slapped. And you can make what I suppose you could refer to as jumps by running off of ledges that are high enough above the ledge you want to land on. And we got a level up there. And sort of latching on to the next ledge. Very much like Doom, in fact. Is that a thing in this game because it's a thing in Doom? Maybe. Could be. So, we got the breastplate there, picked up a level, got some gold. What's a gold situation? 101. Not too bad. It's going to be, again, quite a while before we actually need that gold. So, we have this pier here that goes, but there's a gap, and that's death right there. However, if you run off from high enough, see, we can sort of land on this here and make the gap. That's something that you can do in quite a few places in this game, actually. So, again, this is sort of the main entrance into the island, but we're not going to go there quite yet. Health is a little bit low, but should be okay, maybe. Sort of depends. This little side cave, see, there's no ground there, so you would die a horrible death. This can be a real problem. We'll see, trying to sort of bait something through the wall, because enemies will track you through walls. We should be good. This snail guy right here, he can melt you if he wants to. So you really want to make sure that you're fighting them in a way that they're not facing you. These two-headed sort of snail dragon things. He has a poisonous breath weapon. This early in the game is very, very dangerous. These guys right here we'll be seeing a lot of. These are one of the most common early enemies, these sort of man-eater plants. They kind of look like a melon. Whoa, that was close. They look like a very angry melon. Oops, missed him. There we go. Easy peasy. It can be a bit difficult to get used to fighting in this game because the hitboxes are a little bit weird. Your attacks take a little while to come out, and you need to know what your hurt boxes on your different weapons are. And of course everything is very slow. You are very slow. The enemies are quite slow mostly as well. So up here we've got these 3 chests. It's not a good idea to open these chests right now because they've got a little bit of a surprise in them, and we don't want to tangle with that yet. But these doors right here, most of those doors in the game that look like that have a room like this behind them. They have a guidepost and a save crest, I guess. We're going to go ahead and save it. And we'll save over data 2 here. You can see my clear data there on the data 1. So generally, with a few exceptions, these doors right here are indications that there's going to be a save point and a guidepost, which is also very important, but we'll get to what those do later on whenever it becomes relevant. So 2 of these chests, this one here is empty. 2 of these chests have stuff in them, but they also have a naughty surprise, which we're going to come back to that for right now. I don't think we're quite well enough equipped to deal with it. And there's something else we need to do. We're not going to do it right now, but we can drop down here onto that ledge. There's some very important stuff, but yeah, we don't really need to mess with that right now. We need something that's going to make that worthwhile. We don't have it yet. Not to mention we really should be a little bit better equipped and be a little higher level to deal with that. What we can do, nothing respawned in here. Oh yeah, that guy did respawn. Let's get him. It's worth good XP. These guys are a little bit higher level because they're a bit more dangerous. So we'll go ahead and get him. Maybe one more. Oh, well, I've got to hit him. The hitbox on these guys is super weird. It's kind of their antenna right at the front. And there we go. So it can be a little bit tricky to hit things in this game. It's not dropping anything. So in here, you've got an apparently empty room with a path to drop into it. This is an antidote for poison. But right here, we get a secret wall. Leads to a little secret chest. Now you want to sprint, heading towards this chest. you saw me dip there, that's because the trapdoor right there tried to dump me out into another area. And here we have a dragon crystal. Very, very good item. It's basically an elixir. It will fully refill your HP and MP. And I believe it may even clear status effects. Okay, we're done here, so we can go ahead and drop in this hole onto these slimes. And we'll go ahead and kill them, I suppose. I'm not healing for a particular reason. We only have a few herbs right now. These slimes are actually much quicker to kill if you cast a fireball at them, but I don't really have any particular reason to do that. So you'll notice that the game is running quite fast right now. The frame rate of this game, which is tied directly to the speed of the game, the whole game runs off the clock, as is very typical of pretty much all games back then. It fluctuates wildly. He dropped us a dagger, which we certainly don't want. We can sell that for a few gold. So the game will run at wildly different frame rates depending on where you are and what you're looking at, what's on screen, how many enemies are around. This takes some getting used to. That's a bloodstone, very good item. It clears any status effect except for poison. So between antidotes and bloodstones, you're all covered. Okay, another one of these doors. So it's another save point and guidepost back here. We're not gonna save. Nah, we won't save. It should be fine. If I get really low health, then I'll just use my an herb. So in here, no enemies. I think these barrels are all empty. And bucket also empty. This guy over here is a dead Aphrodite soldier. He has something extremely important. That is the Stargate. Not Stargate, but the Stargate. What that does, we'll get into later. Bones have nothing. Sometimes bones do have stuff on them. Danger ahead. I'm not sure if that means this room, or if that means down here. Could be either. I'm not sure if there's anything worthwhile in here. There may be. Certainly quite a few enemies. The man-eater plant is giving me a dirty look. Probably getting snuck up on the left side. Nope, just slimes over there. Slimes are really not an issue. We'll hit that one with a fireball first, just to soften him up. Whoop. Okay, we don't want to get... We're gonna have a problem here. Generally, you don't want to attack things facing them, but if you can get an attack out faster than they can, you can, of course, stun them. I might be able to just walk over these slimes, or run over them. Yeah, kind of got between them there. Get around behind this man-eater plant. Well, unless I whiff. You really have to sort of stand on the slimes for a moment to allow them to hurt you. I'm not sure if that hit him. He didn't flinch, so I think I hit the ground. Something really odd about these green slimes is generally when you encounter a green slime in a game, you would assume that it would poison you. And all this gold here. These ones do not. They actually are like antidote slimes. If you touch one, or I'm not sure if you have to let it damage you or if you can just touch it. When you are poisoned, it will cure you. Just a little bit odd. Nothing in that barrel. There's the gold. Nothing in that barrel. I'm not actually sure if there's any reason to come in here, but we are getting both experience and strength experience. We're killing all this stuff, so it's worth doing. Oh yeah, there's a chest in here. No idea what's in it, but I guess we'll find out. I whiffed. I think I missed with both, actually. I don't think there's a physical weapon. Oh, another crystal. It's actually, that's worthwhile, because it takes 2 crystals to do the thing that you want crystals for, so... Ah, that hit him, finally. And you can see that did the equivalent of, like, 3 hits there, so... Definitely good to use fire on the slimes. Got another couple of rooms to look at here. There's a snail in here. We definitely do not want to get out in front of him. So like I said, they will really melt you if you let them. Ouch! Did he poison me? No, he didn't. Okay, good. Something you can do in this game is,
Missed.
Oh, that was a bad shot. You can use... Alright, let's heal. You can use magic. Because your magic and your sort of strength stamina are completely different and unrelated bars, you can use one to kind of buffer the other to help lock down enemies. They'll flinch no matter what you hit them with, as long as you're doing damage to them. So you can hit them with a weapon attack and then switch to magic and just kind of go back and forth. And sometimes you can really keep enemies locked down that way. The game running very fast right now. But of course we have no... Whoa, watch out now. We have no way to restore our MP right now, so we're... whatever MP we use, we're really not going to be getting back. So I think I'm going to save what's left. I don't think there's any secret walls or anything in this room. We're going to save what the MP we've got left for emergencies, more or less. Sort of. There's a few hard enemies that we might want to be concerned about. Okay, we've got all that cleared out. We picked up the Stargate, so we'll go ahead and save it. Just in case something horrible happens, which it may. There's no... well, as of right now, there are no lives or continues or anything like that. If you die in this game, most of the time, certainly for us right now, it's basically a game over. And you start right back where we started, standing on that little island with nothing in level 1 or 0 or whatever level it is you start at. So it's all about saving and loading in this game, as was the way things worked often with RPGs back in the day. No autosaves or anything like that. Let's see if I can do this without getting slapped. It's going to be a little bit problematic to fight two enemies, especially if you're not being very careful. Something you have to get used to in this game is that while you can hold the sprint key and move quite fast, there we go, we got some strength up, some strength power from damaging enemies enough. But if you hold the sprint key, you move faster in every direction, including strafing, but you do not turn faster. So we are permanently limited. I should be able to... yeah, a broken sword. What's interesting is I don't think this sword is any of the other swords. I think that's actually a unique sword, which is kind of odd. Someone's gotten to this chest before we did. I don't think there's any secret walls right here. You can see the inspect button is the same as the run button. So whenever I'm tapping use to look for secret walls, it's running down my meters as well. There's an antidote right here. But as I was saying, so you have to get used to the fact that you never turn any faster. And that really becomes your limiting factor when you're fighting in this game. And sometimes the best strategy is to circle strafe around an enemy in one direction, and they'll start tracking you moving that way. And a lot of the enemies can turn faster than you can, in fact. But if you sort of circle an enemy in one direction and then switch to circling them the other direction, they'll not adjust very quickly, so they'll keep turning in the direction you were going, and you can slip around behind them that way. Just to show you where we are, we're right here. This is the initial pier. That's the little spot we started on. So we've come sort of all the way around from inside. And in this barrel is a iron mask. A little bit more early defense for us. Very good. We're up to 27/defense. Pretty good. And then we got another herb right here. In this room right here, another A lot of herbs. This room right here is why I was a little bit reluctant to save, or to heal myself earlier, because we have a fountain full of HP potion water. The healing waters of the island, I presume, is the blue water, which fully restores your HP. Another herb. I caught the edge of the fountain there. Whenever you press the interact button, and there's multiple things to interact with in front of you, it just does them all in kind of a queue. So I got the fountain there, and it picked up the herb at the same time. Ouch, got slapped from behind. Of course, it doesn't matter. It would be almost impossible to die in this room with the HP fountain that I can click on right here and just instantly refill my health to full. And you can also see that we've got quite a bit of more HP from the level that we've picked up. I think we're level 4 now. Oh, okay. We've leveled either a few times or you started a higher level than I realized. Never actually paid attention to what the starting level is. I would think it was 1, but maybe we've leveled a number of times and I just haven't been paying attention. Hit him with a fireball. Okay, so we have a chest over here, but we can't open it because it's locked. And you can hear a noise. I scooch over here. Can you hear a noise? Yeah, sort of. We have an opportunity to get ourselves killed here. So, we have an opportunity here to get ourselves killed because there's a secret wall with a skeleton. Now, these guys are quite mean. They have some good reach. A really good reach, actually. They attack quite fast, and there's a decent chance he could one-shot me. What I'm really hoping is that he sort of turns away. There he goes, but the door was closing. That was very unfortunate. If I can get in there with him not... There we go. And you can see that he turns quite fast as well. Oops, that's not good. There we go. Hey, that was good. He would probably do about 50 damage. Maybe not a one-shot, but it would have hurt very bad. Skeletons are a pretty scary enemy early on. But for our trouble, we got the leather shield. Even more defense. We're above 10 or above on all of the physicals, which is going to be quite helpful. I don't think there's a secret wall in here. They do sometimes put a secret in a secret. This game, there are a ton of secret walls in this game. Just a huge number. So you really have to get in the habit of looking for them. Okay, so this door right here is possibly the only one of very few of these types of doors that do not lead to a save point, as I mentioned earlier. So let's, before we head that way, let's nip down here and we'll hit the save point. I'll sprint so we can get there sometime this week. And we'll save it and carry on. I'll do a little bit more. I'll probably record for about an hour in this first recording, see how things go. I don't want to waste too much time if there's a problem. Of course, we had all that intro stuff, so that was about 15 or 20 minutes. So there's only been about 30 minutes of gameplay so far, almost. Or thereabouts, anyway. We're making good progress so far. We got some good gear going. We're down to more or less just this one direction that we can head at the moment. We might as well clear out this room. Some XP. We're effectively out of mana. We can cast Fireball one more time. Sea doodles. There we go. As you can see, the hitboxes a little bit strange. These enemies, these Krakens, are a little bit interesting because they always have the two phases, or the sort of big, tall head part, possibly sort of a shell, even though it's all the same color. Ouch. Always has to die first. even when you are extremely powerful at the end game, it still takes 2 hits to kill these guys because you have to kill them in the 2 stages. Just missed. Oh. But we're down to this one path right now. Dropped an antidote. Might be helpful. We haven't been poisoned yet, interestingly. So there's the wooden door that the fisherman was talking about. The village is behind it. But for now, we want to go up here. This is a little self-contained area, so it's not a branching path we have to worry about. Pretty cool bridge here. Is there anything below? What are we looking down at? Ah, this is right above where we picked up the short sword, was right down there. So, get across here. Now, there's something a little bit concerning in here that we want to be aware of. 2 of these snails. You can see them breathing there. You do not want to get hit by that. So we definitely want to take care of this one quick enough that we can stunlock the other one. Whoops, that's not good. Okay, so now we should be golden. We don't want to let this guy... They turn very, very slow, which is very helpful, but that attack that he was doing, the sort of breath weapon, that is real bad. You don't want to get hit by that. So, I'm sure you've seen it over here, but we have another magic crystal. This one is a wind crystal, so it'll teach us our first wind spell. Go ahead and use that. No reason not to. The first wind spell is Wind Cutter, which is also 3 MP to cast. It's actually quite similar to Fireball, but it penetrates. It does less damage, but it'll penetrate through multiple enemies, and that can be pretty handy. We've got 2 chests here. This one over here is locked. You have to come back and unlock that later. But this one's open, and it has a crystal flask. Now, this game has bottles, basically like Zelda bottles. And you can fill them with... Not unlike Zelda, there's only a couple of things you can put in them, but the only thing we care about and have access to right now is the healing water. So we basically have an Estus flask. We can refill there and take with us, which we definitely will go ahead and go do. There's no reason not to. We have the flask. It'll be quite useful. Now, unlike Estus flasks, drew some water. Now we have a blue potion. Unlike Estus flasks, the blue potions are always the same amount of health restore. They don't scale with you, which is that's actually only true for some Souls games anyway. But there's no way to improve it either, so it depreciates quite a bit as you get through the game. How valuable it is to have those, but for right now it'll be a full heal. I want to say it's maybe 150 hit points. So we can head through here. This is really the only way we have to go right now. At least the only productive way. We got a music change. We've sort of entered a new area here. And as I said, this game has, unlike the Souls series later on, this game has music in the different areas constantly playing. Medical herbs for sale, Al Hunt. Yeah, he's that way. So now we do have 2 very real directions we can head. We can go this way. We're starting to see these Necron soldiers. These guys can mess you up if you let them. They have a sort of a combo attack that they do. And they move pretty fast. They don't turn very fast, but they move around quite quickly. So you do not want to be letting them get attacks off on you. So we're not going to go this way first. We'll go the other way first. Frame rate very low right here. A lot of stuff going on. A lot of geometry, enemies. I think this barrel's... Oh yeah, some in it after all. Check that wall fast. So we can cross here. I can't remember what's back here, so let's go have a quick nosy. Okay, so there's a red slime. Red slimes, unlike the green slimes, these ones poison you if you let them damage you. Generally not going to be an issue. Slime's pretty easy to not be harmed by, but there will be instances where they'll just kind of be everywhere and the game will drop you onto them and it can be troublesome. So Okay, I think I recall this area. I think this is just a self-contained little area with maybe a couple items in it, so we'll clear this area out. This game is very confusing. If you don't know where you're going or where you've been, it's very easy to get lost and confused. There is no like mini-map or anything like that. You have the compass, if that is something that helps you, but it's never been helpful to me. I'm getting molested right now. Who's bumping me? Is it a bug? Yes. These guys are super annoying. They attack very fast. And they have actually more health than you might imagine. Usually don't bother. Actually, I've killed his tail, which means that he can't do anything. Yeah, there you go. Once you kill the tail, they can't attack anymore, so they can be really hard to hit. I'm not terribly sure where the hitbox is. There we go. Got him again. But yeah, if all of the areas, because it's a PlayStation 1 game, of course, all the areas look the same. There's really not that many different textures, and the geometry is all super simple, so it's kind of boxy rooms and boxy rooms and boxy rooms. So it can be pretty difficult to know where you are or where you're going. I'm going to tap the use key in here because it can be really hard to see items on the ground sometimes. I'm not sure if this guy respawned, or if this is a different one. Now you see I killed the front of him first there, so his tail sort of existed for a little bit longer and then died. Yeah, so getting lost in this game is a very real possibility, and it takes a lot of doing to sort of understand the map in your head. And even when you kind of know where you're going, I found it's really easy to get confused and turned around, not know exactly where you are or where you should be heading. It's very much a Metroidvania, the same as the... he had a crystal, like a real whole crystal. That's really good. The way the map is laid out, so there's different areas, and there's gates in some places, where you need different keys and things to get around. And it can just be really difficult to find your way around a lot of the times. And there are maps in the game. Ooh, another crystal there. There are maps in the game, but none of them are really right in front of you, I don't think. But they are quite helpful. They're actually a lot more helpful than they may first appear to be. There are items that you use, so that was just for a couple of crystals, which is going to be useful later on, but doesn't do anything for us right at the moment. I could kill this guy again. I might as well. These man-eating plant things are pretty easy to kill, worth a bit of XP, get a bit of gold. So, it's going to be good, given that I've just completed this game and I know basically where I'm going most of the time. Of course, I'm saying that now. Inevitably, we're going to get turned around at some point, but I have the powers of editing, so you don't have to suffer through all that. So, if we pull this lever, get a bridge across here. This down under the bridge, I'm pretty sure is just death. Pretty sure it's just a death pit. I'll let the soldier come across. Maybe. Here he comes. So you can see that I'm kind of just keeping my distance and strafing a bit and letting him turn away from me. You don't want to be in front of anything in this game. Everything attacks pretty much right in front of itself. The game is very, very simple in terms of combat. Northern Village, good. And it's actually not a difficult game, I wouldn't say. This is full of ghosts. Do I want to mess with this now? Ghosts are a pain in the butt because they take very little physical damage. It takes forever to kill a ghost with just a sword, as you might imagine. But the good thing is, they are tethered to right here, so we can literally just stand here, ouch, and get hit a couple times. Oh, I've been darknessed. You see the world going dark there. It's a status. It doesn't last very long. It's really not a particularly big deal. Anyway, so yeah, these enemies are leashed. You'll find a lot of the enemies in the game have leash ranges. Got a little too close again. where you can just kind of do this, sit right outside of their range and slap them until they die. This darkness should be wearing off soon. Grave, grave, grave. Graves do sometimes have something in them, so worth checking. There it goes, darkness wearing off. None of the statuses in this game last very long, which makes most of them really not much of a threat. There are no super scary, nasty statuses in this game, as there are in the Souls games. Like, think about things like Curse, or Frenzy in Bloodborne, which is just the worst time you could possibly have. There's nothing really like that in this game. You don't have to worry too much about most of the statuses. There's one very, very bad one, which we'll probably be seeing in not too long. We'll definitely want to hang on to some bloodstones to cure that status. You can see that the hitboxes for a lot of the enemies are kind of out in front of them. Once you get used to that, it's not too hard to line up your shots. Okay, and this is the point of coming in here. If I can open it. There we go. Boots! Iron boots. They do not make us sink in water, but they do give us more defense. Hey, we're up to some pretty good defensive stats now, for being quite early in the game. I'm pretty sure there are no secret walls in here. I think I've checked multiple times. We lost a bit of health from getting ghosted. All these ghosts respawn. We don't want to deal with them again. Go ahead and check the floor in here. Sometimes sometimes items can be quite difficult to see, as I said. So I'm pretty sure we are done with that graveyard forever. So we can head this way. I think that's the way we want to go. Up here is just, yeah, a little storage area. D. Herb. Good. Sure that's it for this little area. Go and check the ground. A lot of times I find that it's helmets. In a couple of places there's helmets lying around which are really easy to miss. I'll have to try and look very carefully this time to see if I can spot them. This should be Al Hunt. Yep. I can speak to him. It's a little bit of a pain to speak. It's just chowing down on some soup. It's a little bit of a pain to speak to NPCs that are merchants, because every time you speak with them, obviously it brings up the merchant dialogue, or the merchant interface, where you can buy and sell. So you have to close that before you can talk to them again. But they do have stuff to say, so it's worth doing. Hello, newcomer. You can go to the underworld if you want to find some crystals. I cannot go down below because I am too fat. It's fair enough, man. Anyway, I have some herbs to sell. Okay, good. Thanks. You have stuff that's not herbs to sell. This is a shield. I think when it spins around, we'll see the handle on the back. Yeah. Amulet of Mist is actually a very good item, but there are two in the game we can find, and we don't need to buy them. Miner's Map you can also find without buying. These are quite expensive. And there's the herbs that he sells, antidotes. Seath's Plume allows you to cast spells without magic. It doesn't consume any magic to cast spells for a brief period of time. So that can be a really good item, but there's no way you'd want to spend that much money on it. We can sell him stuff. We don't need these daggers. Got a little bit. 80 per. That's good. I don't think we... Oh, we do have one crystal shard. These don't do anything. Just kind of a random drop from some enemies. So we can get rid of those for money. We'll talk to him a couple more times. I will tell you a secret. The green slime can resolve poison, so try to touch its body whenever you are poisoned. Yeah. As I said, a little bit of a strange thing, but... as with Dark Souls, actually more than Dark Souls, I would say, you can get some pretty good information from NPCs. Run away if you see the monsters. Don't even think about fighting them, even though you are a skillful swordsman. I think I'm doing alright, but thanks. I wonder why I'm always so hungry. Well, I don't know. You can resolve that on your own. I have no input. Don't think there's anything else in his house. And we got a little bit more village here, I believe. Should be... Yeah, here we go. This lady here, forget her name. think there's anything in her house either. Speak with her. My name is Nola. My brother Diaz came to this island 2 years ago. We haven't seen each other. If you see my brother, would you tell him that I'm here? She's important. I can't remember exactly who Diaz is. Diaz came to this island to meet a powerful warrior. I don't know if he wanted to learn something from him or if he wanted to fight him. I can't quite remember who Diaz is. Hopefully we'll figure it out. I wonder why there is sunlight here, while the other parts of the island are always in the dark. I wish this whole island were like this. I believe we learn why that is, actually. Phi, the man who came here with my brother, has also disappeared. He was a very kind person and our good friend. How come Phi and my brother don't contact me? Pretty sure we meet all these people. Do you know where my brother is? I believe she just says that from now on. Talk again just to make sure. Yeah. I think we meet all of those people, I want to say. And this here is another healing water fountain. Of course, it's what's keeping all these villagers alive, so they have these fountains in all of the towns, I believe. So you can refill your flasks at those little fountains. This leads to... I'm not sure what. We have a new enemy here. Termites. Thankfully, these guys, even though they're very low to the ground, you don't actually need to look down too far to attack them. So, not too hard to fight. These are the enemies that can inflict the really, really bad status, though, so definitely worth being careful. Hey! Okay. Hey, alright. Secret cubby hole there. Those niches usually have an item in them. There are some of those niches, though, that are traps. Like that one there. If you stand in front of that, you get speared. So, always worth sort of moving along at a pretty fast clip whenever you're looking for items. Okay, we got 2 more ways here. You can see how confusing these areas are getting. Chest here. Some gold in. 40 gold. It's fine. Not really significant. And another path here. I'm pretty sure most of this is self-contained. Okay, that right there is quite important, but we do not want to deal with that right now. I will go ahead and kill this ghost. It's because I'm here. Ouch. Am I getting creeped up on here? Oh, he slowed me. This is not the frame rate. This is actually my move speed. Now I could cure this. I'm going to try not to, and we got darkness, which is also annoying. I can't. I can barely move. Nope. Get him. Okay, there we go. The slow wore off. Still got the darkness, but that's not a big deal. Where is your leash? There it is. Jeez. So slow is quite bad as well. You really can't move. We got the darkness now, which doesn't really matter. I think there's a man-eater plant in here as well. Yeah, there he is there. I'll go ahead and take him out. Darkness wearing off. It's good. There's 2 in here. Now, some enemies respawn, and some don't. In fact, a lot don't. And once you kill them once, they never will come back. The whole game, it keeps all of that not only in memory, but saved as well. Even if you load a save, if you've killed enemies that don't respawn, they will not be back. So we can drop down that hole. There's something incredibly important down that hole, but we do not want to go there yet, because we're going to have no way to get out. In fact, we potentially would be soft-locked if we drop down there, so we do not want to do that. But it's a good hole to know where it is. You can sort of do something a little bit early in that hole. If we go this way, I think this is going to lead to a dead end. Eventually. At least a dead end for now. This is a pretty important area. If it leads to where I think it leads to. We'll see here in a moment. Nothing on any of the bones. Oh, no, this is just another hole. I think this goes to pretty much the same place as the other hole. It just drops you in a different part of that area. So, we don't want to do that yet. I'm getting more and more of this area explored. Quite labyrinthine, all of the areas we've done, all of the exits from this room. Did I check this barrel? Either way, it's empty. So we can head back this way. I feel like I had a train of thought that has left me, but obviously it wasn't very important. Now we can heal up here. I think we've got about 90. Yep. Nora's house. And I think there's Al's house, so we can head this way now. Ah, okay, this is what I was thinking of. This door here is sealed. That might be the save point off to the left. Sealed, yeah. Yeah, here we go. Save room. You can tell by the door. And I'm going to save and stop for now. Got plenty of footage. Ah, ooh, actually, big deal right here. There's the moon key. So, you can see they're sorted to the bottom here. We have the Stargate and the moon key. If you have a matching gate and key, which we don't yet, you can place the keys in these guideposts, and if you use the gate that matches that key, you teleport to the save room with the guidepost. So that is our fast travel and teleporting system. You leave those keys in places you want to be able to fast travel back to. If you have the gate, then that's how you can get around the island very fast that way. But we don't have the moon gate. We won't have the moon gate for a good while. And we don't have the star key yet, which we should be getting fairly soon. The star gate and key are the ones you get quite early. And in fact, the other two, it takes a while to get them. But we're going to go ahead and save and quit there. There we go. And thanks very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Hopefully this came out well, and if it did, then we'll be continuing on from here. So, see you next time.